What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and now we are talking about Sim Update Beta 4 and the fact that it is live. And in this video, I'm going to break down what has changed, the early results we are all seeing, some top bugs, a couple of workarounds, and whether you should jump in on PC, Steam, or Xbox. I'll show you how to enroll and share my testing loop so you can reproduce the numbers. So let's go ahead and get this show going. If you are interested in any of my tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides as well as any future guides that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. Alright, so real quick, if you guys are interested in joining the beta on Steam, you want to go to your library, right click on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, go to Properties, Betas, pick Flight Sim Beta Sim Update 4. To leave later, set the betas back to none. A lot easier on Steam, actually. If you're on the store version like myself and Xbox, you need to use the Insider flow. Make sure that you're registered. Open Xbox Insider Hub on PC, or if you're on the Xbox itself, previews Microsoft Flight Simulator Beta, join or manage, choose Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 Sim Update Beta 4, then reboot and pull the update from Microsoft Store or the console updates. I do also recommend, if you plan on jumping in and out of betas, that you keep your contents in two separate directories, meaning that when you do an install of the beta, put it in a different location than what you do when you do the non-beta. Makes it a bit easier. Alright, so first let's talk about a few changes in the tight version here. So main CPU thread optimization and crash fixes across ATC, the world map, traffic, scenery, pushback, and the Ryzen module. A big update for me as I am developing something that's using it, so that actually made me feel pretty happy. The menu UI and performance improvements and better persistence for resizable panels. Avionics, efficiency correctness across or work across the G1000, 3000, 5000 series, the 3X, the 430 and 530, and the Pro Line 21, as well as the UNS1. Waypoint rendering, VNAV, VGP logic, and drawing performance. Physics and flight model tweaks with more flexible and rational behavior. New Community 2024 folder to help separate share packages when you also have MSFS 2020 installed. So they've renamed the community folder. And on paper, it's a stability and performance update first. Feature tweak second, but the real story is how it flies, so let's talk the results, because I can tell you right now that although there are certain areas where truly there's been a massive improvement, not everything is all rainbows and cupcakes. So to get things moving along here, early sentiment trends positive on performance, and myself agree. So all these things are, guys, I spent most of the day doing my own testing as well as watching a few others to see if they matched up. So I want you to know that this information is more than just my own results. So, I tried to go a little bit deeper than I have been. The big call it is smoother ground roll, fewer main thread stutters during taxi and takeoff. In the air, panning camera across the dense cities also feels more consistent for many users, though I don't know that I notice a huge difference across that. So that's not going to be a universal behavior, but the needle points the right way, right? For VR, this is a good one, and then there's a bad one that follows it, but we'll talk about that. So for VR, I have to report a meaningful uplift with the right combo of foveated rendering, LOD settings, of course, and the new CPU threading work. The heavy airlines feel more manageable. The overall stuttering and behavior of the simulator inside of virtual reality seems to have smoothed out. Cockpit rendering seems to be significantly faster and more efficient, and just an overall better feel in virtual reality than anything that I've seen. So SU4 definitely feels like a quality of life bump when it comes to virtual reality, but it didn't come without its headaches, and we'll get to those here shortly. This beta is... with this beta, your mileage is going to vary, right? And that's where I want to top on that. So keep in mind, as I always want to stress when it comes to performance videos is hardware, drivers, settings. All of that's going to come into play. But compared to SU3 virtual reality, I saw about a 12 to 15 frames per second increase, depending on scenery and level of detail and load times. With caching and everything removed, Los Angeles was fairly smooth. Honestly, it was pretty glass and running just below ultra settings. But I did vary those quite a bit depending on. So the things that I always keep: level of details up at ultra, level of detail. The computer preset is ultra, and then I turn things like glass cockpit display, turn those down. Any kind of depth of field or thing like that, I get rid of those. And then the level of detail, I think I dropped down to about 125, I think is what it was, during my VR testing specifically. So, but I'm also running the RTX 4080. I'm not on a 4090 or 5090, so I can't crank this. And this was all also done with the Pimax Crystal Lite. The Crystal Super, I haven't done any testing on that yet. I wanted to start with a device that was more comparable to the hardware, where I could really push it to the limits, as I do run the Crystal Lite at its native resolution. Okay, so now let's talk about a few other hits here. All right, so let's talk about the known issues so far and things that I have been able to verify. Sharp edges here are going to be the bigger of the problems. So first off, speaking back while we stay on the VR side, VR mouse cursor is not working when VR controllers are active. If your mouse dies in VR while using virtual desktop, it's likely that the controller tracking is taking focus. Try disabling the controllers, the controller tracking, and then or fly 2D for now if you can't get it to interact. I don't ever use the controllers, but I watched another video where somebody reported it, so I turned mine on and they wouldn't turn off. The hand controllers wouldn't stop tracking no matter what I did. It was like the sim didn't care that they were out of sight. I could have put them in the kitchen and the sim wouldn't bring my mouse back. So I was able to verify that when that was a problem. FSR3 frame gen flicker when anti-aliasing is set to DLSS. If you are seeing severe flicker, swap to anti-aliasing, or swap anti-aliasing to the AMD FSR3 or TAA. It's a common combo that triggers artifacts until it's going to be patched, so be ready for that one. Again, that was verified. Finally, one of the next big ones is jetways are not moving and third-party tools flagging bad jetway data. If jetways matter to your flow, assume it's unstable in this build. Default airports are the ones to test third-party sceneries. Just don't seem to be working pretty well at the moment. So keep that in mind. If you're okay with the default scenery, there doesn't seem to be any issue. Any third-party sceneries, jetways seem to be having a problem. Wheel brakes. This one was interesting. Number 4, wheel brakes failing on certain aircraft, even with the hydraulics up. I personally did not see this, but I saw over 30 different posts on the Microsoft Flight Simulator forums indicating that it was absolutely happening, and that was as of 9:30 this morning Mountain Time. So double check your control bindings and test on a stock plane with add-ons disabled. If it still fails, consider it a regression worth upvoting in the official thread. I saw quite a bit of that today. And then enrollment and update hiccups. If your branch looks wrong or updates stalls, leave the insider flight, reboot, launch the sim to the main menu, exit, and rejoin the insider program. Then update the store apps and try again. It's clunky, but it did clear it for me when I first tried yesterday. And I think that's why yesterday I didn't realize it was live, is because it didn't update. And then finally, number 6, the world map showing. Release no showing as null. If you're unsure what version you're on, confirm under the options general about and look for 1.6.3.0 or newer, and that would indicate you are on sim update for beta. Okay, and as always, search the forums first and upvote an existing thread if it matches your issue. Keep the triage centralized and visible, guys. If you create multiple threads with the same issue, you could find yourself being ignored, or an issue that is critical not seeing the proper attention because there's so many threads. Whenever you run into a problem or a bug or something like that and you want to report it on the forums, guys, make sure that you search the forums for your issue and make sure it's not already posted. If it is posted, you can add your details to it, but be sure to upvote it. That's what's going to get things fixed the fastest. I found 4 or 5 different threads today on the wheel brake issue. And it looked like they all got combined as of later this evening. But again, that's going to cause a problem. That's going to slow down the resolution to a lot of these problems. A few tweaks I want to give you guys a head up if you decide to roll into Sim Update Beta 4. So as a community sanity check, guys, I've stressed this over and over again, but we're going to hit it again. Temporarily move questionable or old packages out of your community folder while you test SU4. Remember, a lot of these packages, although they work and you believe that they work, doesn't necessarily mean they were supported or working well in the backend. In my process of developing a software for Microsoft Flight Simulator, which I'll be really revealing to you all soon, I've been playing around with a lot of the debugging. You wouldn't believe how many of my add-ons I found that were actually causing problems that were quote-unquote working just fine, but were reporting a lot of flags and errors. Obviously, that's not going to be a good thing, and obviously any kind of error is going to impact performance a bit. So be questionable of that, and I do recommend that if you're going to come on to Sim Update Beta 4, don't roll with add-ons. The idea is to test it in its overall state, not to test whether it's compatible with a third-party software. That's kind of an unfair test, I will say that. So me personally, I actually pull my add-ons when it comes to testing betas, because I think it's an unfair test. It's an unfair expectation to assume that your add-ons are going to work from a stable release to a beta. All right, so just my thoughts on that. Again, as we talked about before, anti-aliasing in frame gen. If you run FSR3 frame gen, try FSR3 anti-aliasing first. If you prefer DLS, be ready to revert to TAA if you see any flickering. Again, the Jetway expectations rely on default scenery. A lot of third-party sceneries, the Jetways are broken. VR control priority. If your mouse is non-responsive in VR, toggle or disable the motion controller tracking in your streaming applications such as Pimax Play. And then try recentering the view and see if that doesn't work. And of course, be sure to confirm your branches we talked about before on the world map. Often it is now showing null. You're looking for 1.6.3.0 to recap the previous section. So the next big kicker on the table is, should you join Sim Update Beta 4? Is it worth it? Is the benefits worth the pains in the asses, if you will? Pardon my French. My honest read after digging through the reports, it really depends on what you're looking for. Join now if you want a smoother main thread performance. The performance is better. I will not deny that, especially if you fly a lot of glass or primarily fly in virtual reality and don't mind tweaking your settings a little bit. There is definitely an improvement overall in performance. However, if jetways and certain ground critical situations are important to you and you don't want to play the anti-aliasing roulette, then I would recommend sticking where you're at, because there's certainly, again, a list of issues that are continuing to grow as I am making this video with the bugs being reported with Update Beta 4. But there's a lot of benefits to it as well. So let's talk about some of the questions that I have seen as I've been looking around. Does the beta affect my career and challenge league progress? In flighting, career and challenge leagues are kept separate from the retail build, so leaderboards and progress won't cross until the update goes live. Now, that's not to say that any of the work that you do doesn't do anything. It just means if you switch back before Update Beta 4 goes live, then you're not going to see that progression that you made while you were on the beta. Again, the beta 4 question, what the build version, I've already covered that enough, so we're not going to touch on that. What's the Community 2024 folder for? I've seen that multiple times on the forums, so I'm going to help clear that up. It is to manage or share community packages when you also have Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 installed, without forcing 2024 to load packages meant for 2020. Previously, they both said community, that's all it was. By establishing Community 2024, they are now able to delimitate between the two folders, and therefore the two sims will no longer step on each other's community builds. So that is to just make things a bit easier for everybody all the way around. So my final piece so far on Sim Update Beta 4 1.6.3.0 looks like a real step forwards for stability and main thread performance, and VR in particular seems to be breathing a lot easier. There are still some sharp edges in FSR flicker, jetways, and a few other input quirks, but if you're comfortable troubleshooting, I think it's honestly worth the spin. If this helped, And if you guys are liking these kind of videos and these kind of updates, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring that bell for notification of future content. And as more and more information and results come out from Sim Update Beta 4, I will continue to post what my experience is and that I'm finding of others in a one concise location so you can stay up to date. I will be remaining on the Update Beta 4 until it comes to release. That way, if anything critical or smashing comes the way, I will be able to alert you before you make that call. As always, my friends, keep the blue up top and stay safe and healthy. I'll see you in the next one.